Lesson 70, Formula Auditing. In this lesson, we'll take a look at something called Show Formulas mode. This is a great way to see all of the formulas on the worksheet at one time. Take a look at the formula auditing tools such as trace precedence and trace dependence, how to evaluate a formula, and a new feature called the watch window. Alright, so here we have a worksheet that someone else prepared and has sent to us, and we need to figure out how this worksheet is working. We want to see which cells are input cells and which cells are formula cells. And to do this, I'm going to call back to your high school days when you might have taken high school Spanish or high school French. If you took high school Spanish, think about the word piñata, P-I-N-A-T-A. We're getting an NY sound out of that N because of what? Well, because of the squiggly thing above the N. It's called a tilde. Or if you had high school French, there's a backwards accent, which I understand is called an ou gras. Well, look on your keyboard just underneath the escape key, and there is a single key that has both the tilde and the grave accent. If you hold down Control and hit that key, Excel will show us every single formula in the worksheet at once. This is a toggle, so we'll go back and forth from numbers to formulas to numbers to formulas. Great way to understand which cells are input cells and which cells are calculated. Okay, let's say that we need to take a look at this big formula down here in cell D33. One easy thing to do is to edit the formula by pressing F2. Excel shows us the formula and color codes the various cells that flow into that formula. So D4 is in blue here, and it's in blue there. One interesting side note, and this is actually dangerous, is that you can rewrite the formula by dragging that highlighted box. Of course, let's not do that here. That would cause major problems. So this is one way to see how the formula is working, but sometimes we need something a bit more permanent. The formula auditing tools are back on the Formulas tab of the ribbon. They're over here. If we choose that cell and choose Trace Precedence, Excel will show us all of the cells that flow into this cell. So each cell with a dot is referenced in this cell. Keep your eye out for this icon here. This icon means that there is at least one precedent that is somewhere else on another worksheet or another workbook. To see a list of those precedents, you don't go to the icon, you actually go to the arrow. Go to the broken line and double-click, and Excel will show you a list of all of the off-sheet precedents. Okay, now I still have this original cell selected. If I would ask for trace precedence again, I get to see the precedence of the precedence. In other words, the second level precedence, then the third level precedence, fourth, fifth, and so on. At this point, I understand that this is a fairly complex formula, and I would have to do some investigation to understand exactly how it's working. To get rid of those arrows, of course, we remove arrows. Now, let's say that we want to take a look at this rent cell. Where does that rent cell get used? Well, in that case, we would trace dependence, and Excel would show us that it flows through to 3 cells plus one off-sheet dependent somewhere else. Trace dependence again, and again, and again, and again, and we'll understand how that number flows through the worksheet. Now, a couple of new interesting features that we have in formula auditing. These were actually introduced in Excel 2003. The first one is called Evaluate Formula. Choose a cell that has a formula and click the Evaluate Formula button. Excel shows us the formula, but one part of that formula is underlined. That part is the part that Excel would evaluate first. So I could directly evaluate D4 by clicking Evaluate, or I could step in and see that D4 is 2500. We'll step out. D5, let's step in, and I'll see that that is C5 times 2. So we can evaluate C5, evaluate the product, and then step out. I can basically go through and evaluate this formula in slow motion, understanding exactly in what order it's calculating the formula. Of course, now you wouldn't want to do this for every formula, but it's great when you're convinced you're getting the wrong answer somewhere. It might be that you're missing some parentheses or you didn't understand the order of operations, and using Evaluate Formula is a great way to understand exactly how Excel is coming up with that answer. Now, another feature that is added in this area is called the watch window. In VBA, the macro programming language, we've had a watch window for 10 years and it's very handy. Well, now we have the same concept in Excel. I choose watch window. So this is great when we have a total worksheet and maybe a bunch of work papers. So I'm working on the individual work papers, but I need to keep going back to take a look at the total sheet. Well, if I always wanted to keep my eye on this particular cell, I would add a watch, say that I wanted to watch M27, and now this dialog box will be floating above the worksheet. I can resize it however I need and go back to work on the individual work papers. So I can start entering numbers here, all the while seeing the total back on the total page without having to keep going back and forth. It's also interesting that these are bookmarks. So if I double click, I'll quickly jump to that cell, double click, quickly jump back to that cell. The watch window is great when you need to keep an eye on distant cells, and it's also great for quickly navigating between the workbook. The watch window settings are remembered within the workbook, so if I would close this and later ask for the watch window, it comes back with all of my watched cells. Well, there you have it. I hope you found that helpful, and thanks for watching.
Looking to advance your career by acquiring new skills? Tired of expensive off-site training programs? Wish you could learn from the best instructors in the industry? Look no further than live lessons. Self-paced, personal video instruction by the world's leading technology publishers. Each live lesson comes with a DVD featuring 3 to 4 hours of instructor-led classroom training, sample program code that allows you to work along with your personal instructor, and an example-rich study guide. Live lessons allow you to watch the entire course from start to finish, or navigate directly to any of the individual lessons. You'll literally watch over the shoulder of your instructor as he shows you how to build state-of-the-art applications. Live lessons, the power of the world's leading technology experts at your fingertips. To learn more, visit mylivelessons.com today.